Hey everybody, Dad from Dice After Dark here, and this is episode 1 of Drive to Conflict. Today I wanted to talk about a few things. First off, I wanted to welcome you guys to the first episode and say that this is just another way to put out some more content, hopefully a little bit more timely for you guys, and discuss some of the things that are going on in my head, going on in the meta, all sorts of just different topics like that. And actually today, what I wanted to talk about was some lessons that I learned from a match I had this weekend. So I had a 1250 point match against Russians this last weekend, played by my brother. And we decided that we were going to kind of keep things on an even playing field to make sure that we could really do what we wanted to do with this match, which was to test units out. So we both came up with a list that wasn't necessarily cohesive or really themed, but that had a bunch of units that we both wanted to try out. And then we agreed that we were going to do a 17 order dice cap. And the way that worked was I was at 17 orders on my test list, and he was at like 19, 20 with his Russians, and he brought it down to 17 so that there wasn't a discrepancy there in order dice, and we could get a better feel for the units during the game. So we went ahead and drew like normal for match rules, and we ended up with demolition on longboard edges with fog of war, and that actually worked out really well. We had a asymmetric setup and kind of played around with making everything as equal as we felt, but had some ruins and things like that to kind of break line of sight and just kind of make it a fun field to test our units out. Now, I'm not super familiar with the Russians, and I don't have his actual list in front of me, obviously, because I'm driving. But I can tell you that he was running a T-28, 2 BT-7s, and then a little T-26, I think, maybe. I'll double check that when I post this episode. And then he had a mortar squad, a machine gun squad, I think two or three of the SMG Panzerfaust AT squads, a couple officers, multiple just inexperienced rifle squads, a sniper team, and then a Gauss truck. We'll get back to that one later. And then I was running a weird mix of units. I had 2 Brandenburgers units. One was with double LMGs rifles. The other one was all SMGs. I had 2 Panzerschreck teams. I had a regular 5-man rifle squad. I had a 251-10 with a SMG flamethrower squad in it. I had 2-man flamethrower squads with the single shot version. I had a Panzer III-G with the extra MMG on it. There was a 251-16, which is the Flam Panzerwagen. I had obviously a couple officers sprinkled in there. I had a squad of Spa Truppen, a squad of Feldmarie, Yeah, I think that was it. So it was just a big conglomeration of units that we both wanted to try, right? So deployment, obviously there wasn't one. We were playing Fog of War. So we started round one, kind of both of us rolling up on the board. He immediately castled up around his house. And me being me, I immediately left my house just out in the wind and gave it a wide berth and then castled myself more in a quarter. So he had his guys really, really close to his house, like in the quarter, almost touching the house. And I had all of my guys pushed far out, creating a ring around it almost, but on the edge of the quarter. And then I had the rest of my guys either in reserves or kind of deployed from that corner edge all the way over to the other side of the board. And then I had my spa trooping up pretty far behind a building where he couldn't see, just kind of blocking out any opportunity for him to just push straight shortest edge to edge to my house. Well, which he didn't do on his side. So I actually deployed a bunch of guys from that edge, shortest distance to his house behind cover. So as the battle ensues, we have some back and forth a little bit. Nothing really happens the first couple rounds too much. My 251-16 rolls up, nukes a squad at 12 inches with the flamethrower. It proceeds to run out of fuel immediately. No surprises there. And then that unit actually gets destroyed almost immediately by one of his AT teams with the Panzerfaust. He gets up really super close, gets a side shot, point blank. That unit's done. So we have our first flaming wreck of a vehicle on the field, which I actually wasn't too mad about. The unit nuked the squad it needed to nuke. I would have loved to have it stay around some more, but it happens. Then, after that, stuff started getting a little bit more real. I had a Panzerschreck team that tried to push up and get an angle on his Gauze truck and his little T26 or where I think it was T26, well, his little tiny tank that was sitting with the Gauze, kind of protecting his house. Unfortunately, the Gauze truck got a good line on him. I didn't have him tucked into cover well enough, and they just were wiped off the board, along with a 5-man rifle squad on that side that was kind of trying to also just create a distraction and force him to use the ambush that his Gauze truck was in so I could move my other team up. That didn't work out so well, so I ended up losing the Panzerschreck team and most of that just plain rifle squad, although they did manage to survive enough to get over into cover. With that, actually, though, he pushed his two BT-7s up into the midboard, and that's when I pushed my 251-10 up into the midboard, and we ended up having a couple round kind of standoff there where my 251-10 was engaged with that light AT into those BT-7s, and that first round there, we just neither of us could get a hit, which is good for me in the end, because the next round I ended up snap 2ing, moved up a little bit more, dumped my entire squad out with both the SMGs and the flamethrower. The flamethrower proceeds to just burn one of the BT-7s that had moved up and take it out of commission. And then from reserves, my Panzer 3G came in and one shot at the other tank, even with the -1 to hit, which was fantastic. So it ended up being a double tank death on that round, and gave us a nice just wreckage city right there for tons of cover for my guys then. And then for kind of the rest of the game, it was a little bit of just a back and forth. It was starting to get towards the lower rounds, 4, 5, and 6. We actually ended up having to stop on round 5 because he needed to go. But by that time, there was, a burning or an immobilized 251-10, both the burning BT-7s. I had a destroyed Keaton-Crad because one of my flamethrower teams had been in the Keaton-Crad to move up really quick, and he managed to kind of pop that. We had the 251-16 burning, and then we were just kind of in a standoff because neither of us were anywhere close to being able to get to each other's demolition house. His old school T-28 had kind of moved into position to create a line of sight down a firing lane to my house, which meant I couldn't really put anybody in front of it, but I had cover with a squad behind the 251-16 that was burning. I had cover with a squad behind another building that was positioned outside of the firing lane, and that gave me two spots where his own guys would have to enter the firing lane and move down it, and then I had that covered from either side. So it was a little bit of a standoff already at 4 and 5. And same with him. He had that MMG team and the gauze truck sitting around his house with an officer, and I hadn't been able to get a good line on the gauze truck to just, run up and pop it. So we were kind of in just a no-win situation, except if we had gotten another round, I had started whittling him down. I had a decent order dice advantage over him by that point. I had only lost 5 units, and he was down multiple infantry units, multiple vehicle units, because I had also ran one of the Brandenburger squads with SMGs up into the midboard and just taken out another infantry squad that he had positioned there, as well as pushing on his sniper unit and officers going into the next round. So next turn. It wasn't a good situation for him as we ended round 5. I think if round 6 had progressed, I might have been able to have a final push, basically with everything I had, and pushed with my Panzer and my SMG squad and flamethrowers that were left and everything like that, and get a good take on his house, or at least try to. But with that, what were some of the lessons that we learned in this game? Well, looking at his side with the Russians, his gauze truck was fantastic. Even sitting in ambush, it really just created a threat zone that you didn't really want to enter and you kind of shied away from. So that did a really good job. His AT teams with 4 SMGs and a Panzerfaust, cool, sweet little squads. They put out firepower. He ran them as veterans so they could take a punch back if you got it. They just did a really good job of hitting. That being said, though, his inexperienced rifle squads, they were just chewed up left and right. They didn't put out any firepower. My Brandenburger squad of LMGs sat in the open without going down and just took punishment from multiple of his squads shooting at him. And they just didn't care. It was inexperienced riflemen with a -1 to hit, and they didn't care at all. They just kept on shooting back and chewing through squads. So that was kind of a good lesson on his side there, to make adjustments. The BT-7s were great. They were fast. Even if they got popped, they actually created good cover for him and I. So we kind of theory crafted an idea about using BT-7s as almost a deployable cover. You run them up, you use their machine guns and their AT as much as you can, and then if they inevitably get popped, you just make sure they're in somewhat of a position to create cover for your infantry as well. Not that they can't do that alive, but you can box in areas, shut down firing lanes, all that kinds of things with a pretty decent little tank. The T-28, it's slow as hell, but it puts out a lot of machine gun fire and has that AT gun, and he loves it. So that was his first chance to get to run it. So I think we'll be seeing that in some more lists here in the future. On my side, I had played around with a few of these things before. This is my 3rd time running an SMG flamethrower engineer combo, and I gotta say I really like it. It really fits how I like to play, and so this was kind of the final test on if I want to continue to do that, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm not sure on the squad size because I did run a little bit larger squad size. I had 5 SMGs, a rifle, and the flamethrower. The rifleman was just a loader for the flamethrower. I did tweak that a little bit in my new list, but I really enjoy the flamethrower SMG combo, and that's definitely something I'm gonna keep. The 251-10, I wasn't as impressed with. It only has the 8-man capacity with the light AT gun. I am going to run the 251-7C in my next games with the SMG flamethrower combo. And if you don't know what that one is, that is essentially just another hand of mag. It's the engineer version, so it has the little rails on the side there for them to get over gaps, trenches, all that kinds of things. But it also gives you the SZB-41, or the Panzerboost, which is a squeeze bore gun. Now, on paper, this doesn't look actually that fantastic, considering it's basically pin 2 at base, but then the squeeze bore rule gives it additional pins. So from 0 to 12 inches, you're pin 6. And then from 12 to 24, you're pin 4. And then 24 to 48, you're pin 2. And then, 24 to, at 24, you're pin 2. And then 24 to 48, you actually, instead of -1, you're -2. So essentially at 48 inches, instead of being pin 1, or pin 2, you're just pin 1, which is not fantastic. So, but that being said, with the way that I like to run it, I want to be up close anyways, because I'm dumping off my SMG and my flamethrower squads from that. So I'm going to be up close and personal in people's business already. So I'm going to try running that, because I can leave the officer in it. So you'd have an officer, the 251-7C, and then you have your SMG flamethrower squad combo, and then you have whatever additional units that you put in. And in my case, I'm going to experiment with 2 different versions. I'm going to have a version that is the SMG flamethrower engineers partnered with the Panzer Grenadiers squad that is running double LMGs. And then the other one is going to be the SMG flamethrower engineers partnered with individual flamethrower squads running the one-shot flamethrower. And we'll see how that works, just to get them up the board a little bit, and then they can dump out, and the engineers can continue their assault with the officer. Once they get dumped out, the officer stays in the 251. This allows them to have somebody in the transport so they don't just run away if they move forward towards the enemy. And it also allows you to basically start becoming a little bit of a tank hunter with them, using that pin 6 up close. Now, you're going to get popped pretty easily if you don't get that first hit off, being only 7+. But at 90, what was it? I think it's like 95 points or something like that. It's cheaper than the 251-10, and you have an opportunity to have a higher pin, as well as you gain an additional capacity of 4 guys. So I think it's actually kind of a fun play. I'm going to mess around with it, but based on this weekend's game, I really love the SMG flamethrower combo, and I'm going to keep running those in both the engineer squads and the flamethrower teams. The other things I liked the Brandenburgs for their special abilities. They were just too expensive. They ate up a lot of points, especially when I was running 2. But I definitely think that they were better with the LMGs, because I could bring them from outflank without the penalty, and they could put a lot of fire downfield. But they also already had the tough fighters, fanatics rule, etc., which means if they did get assaulted, they would do pretty well without having to put SMGs on them to get some of that stuff. The Panzerschreck teams are out. I did get to fire those a couple times, and just being one shot, they just did nothing into, they do nothing into squads, really, unless it's in a building. And doing one shot into a vehicle and then having to be out enough where they can get shot back, they just don't do well. I love them. Maybe I'll mess around with them in like a theme list. They didn't kind of fit what I was trying to do. So I'm definitely not going to be running them again anytime soon. The rifle squad, yeah, they're gone. I'm not running rifle squads. That's just not my style. I think you could absolutely make them work, of course. It's just not my style. The 25116, I love that little that little half track with flames. But again, I ran out of fuel immediately, and running out of fuel on a vehicle like that costs 125 points, it just doesn't feel good. Even with the MMG that's on there, no tow capacity. I think I can get my flames, obviously from infantry much better, and then swap that out for something else, which in this new list that I have kind of created from this test run, I swapped out that for a Opal with a flak varying 38. So I'm excited to see how that performs in the list a little bit better. And then, I think that's, Spot Trooper are always good. I'll continue to use them. The Feldemare Marie, the traffic cop guys, they, I'm going to keep running them. I'm running them at 28 points, so they're just inexperienced with pistols. We'll see if I keep running them. I'm a little on the fence about it. They do a good job. My new list has a lot of vehicles, which will give me some good outflanking potential, having them in reserves as well, so I don't have that -1, but we'll see. I don't know. Them being inexperienced makes them hard to bring on the board. I know you really don't want to, but I don't typically like units that are like hard to bring on the board. I'd like to be able to, use their ability and then bring them on the board and maybe have them run up and like hold an objective or something, but I'll keep playing with that, see how it goes. I'm not too worried about it. No, we'll see. But those are kind of the lessons that we learned from our match this weekend. And what I want to do is I will get you guys a list of what we actually ran, and I'll have that posted up in here with the episode. That way you guys can see the accurate units. And then I am working on a video of the new list for a Thursday theory list, and I'm excited to show that to you guys. I really think this is a solid list for my playstyle, and that'll be called the Vulcan list. So I hope you guys enjoy this first episode. I know it's a little bit of me rambling, but just thought I'd be able to share a little bit more content and thoughts with you guys. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.